Monster Squad from 1987. I think this is the last great movie that had the classic monsters all in it. And after this is when they started remaking them all. So what I mean to say, this is the last time we saw the classic versions of them, and they presented them in a funny way. After that, we had like revamped versions, like Bram Stoker's Dracula, Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and even Wolf to some extent with Jack Nicholson. This is kind of like, to me, marks the end of an era.
You don't count the dark universe that's going on right now with the Mummy, and now it's failed completely.
Oh God, the one movie cinematic universe. Well, there was Van Helsing also. That was like 2003.
And like Dracula Untold and all that stuff.
Well, that wasn't any good either. But I mean, I'm talking about Monster Mash. Like when you get all the monsters together.
Like you want a graveyard smash that caught on in a flash.
Transylvania Twist.
Yeah.
It's funny you're calling it the end of an era.
Kind of.
Because for me, it was, I think, the first horror movie I ever saw in my life.
Oh yeah? Wow.
Pretty sure. When I was a kid, I didn't know anything about anything yet. And because this movie was in 1985.
Oh, 87.
87. Yeah. Okay, that's about right. I think I remember renting it from the video store. Not this one. And it was. What an introduction, and I learned kind of everything like immediately in a way, because it was like, you had the Mummy and you had Dracula and the Frankenstein monster and everything, and even like the little things about, because it's a monster squad, it's a team of kids, and they're giving like little bits of trivia and stuff like that. It's almost became what you and I became doing this. It's like, since I was a little kid, my first exposure was a very good first exposure, I think, and
I'd say.
I loved this movie because it was kind of like, I also loved the Goonies and those kind of things. Yeah. And it was this sort of like band of kids that get together and go on this adventure, and, the movie really blew my mind, and it was the first time, I think, also when I was a kid, that I got to see like kind of some gory special effects. And I remember as a kid seeing the Wolfman blow apart, and it was like, the movie's crazy.
It is.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm envious because, believe it or not, here's a crazy thing. I did not see this movie or hear about it until the 2000s. So it must not have been promoted very well.
Gee, James, when was the first time you saw this movie?
Well, 2000. Oh, do you think, did we watch it together?
Oh, you don't remember?
We might. Well, no, we definitely did watch it together. I don't know if it was the first time.
It was.
Because
I remember very well. I remember very well because you were always talking about horror movies and stuff, and we would watch horror movies. Yeah. But I was like, well, I'd say like Wolfman's got nards and all that, and you'd be like, yeah, that's that Monster Squad, right? And you hadn't seen it, and we went out to TLA Video Store. Yeah. And we rented it.
Who luckily had it, because I remember the year before that, or a couple years before that, I actually went all around. I went to 3 different video stores because somebody told me about it. They're like, James, you never seen the Monster Squad? You got to see this. So
that might have been me.
No, actually, there was somebody else who said that, but I didn't see it yet. I think you're the first who showed it to me. This friend of mine brought it to my attention, and I went to 3 different video stores in Philly and could not find it.
I remember watching it with you when the first time you watched it, and I remember one thing with you is your reaction to the Wolfman. Spoiler alert, so the Wolfman explodes and he comes back together, and you freaked out when you saw that, because you were like, they finally answered it, or something like that,
Yeah, it's like, everybody knows a werewolf, you can only kill him with a silver bullet. But what happens if you just blow them up or something? Does the body parts come back together? And that's exactly what happens in this movie.
Like the fucking T-1000?
When was the first time you saw this movie?
Yeah, Liquid Metal.
Yesterday.
Oh, really?
I watched it for this review.
What did you think of it as coming into it in 2019?
There's a lot of good parts, but it really doesn't hold up.
It's the 80s, yeah.
And there's also been way better like montage kid stuff. And honestly, if like much like Stranger Things, if like Netflix or someone did like a series of this, I think it would do better, where they're like going on adventures or doing things. It's such a ragtag. They don't like each other. And there's some things that are just like, really?
Well, there's some really bad language in this movie. And, it's like there's kids, and the kids are saying bad language, which, nowadays there's movies like, Good Boys, which the whole concept is built on
fucking Dracula
kids cursing.
Calls a 5-year-old girl a bitch.
Give me the amulet, you bitch!
Yeah, that's not the worst thing either.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
They use some offensive words that I won't even repeat in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Which, you know, kids say all kinds of shit, but to depict that in a film, it's like, okay. Because this movie could almost be family friendly. I mean, if you minimize
Almost.
you had to take out some of the gore, some of the language, and you'll be fine. But
I mean, it was written by Shane Black, who helped rewrite The Predator and directed Predators, so you kind of get what you... And I think the director did RoboCop 3.
yeah, because Goonies, you brought up Goonies.
Adult.
Goonies is like a perfect balance.
Yeah.
That's like where okay, there's parts in Goonies where it's a little like, okay, that's a little more adult, but it's still, I think, I mean, unless
There's a few bad parts in there.
okay.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's nothing too bad, not as bad as this movie. But with you mentioning like Stranger Things, it's interesting for somebody that has never seen Monster Squad. Now, I didn't think of that. I would think that this movie would be pretty dated after seeing something like Stranger Things and how that's done now. It's very sure that takes place in the 80s, but it's done now with like sort of a modern sensibility of
Not just
you know what I
sensibility,
mean?
but just storytelling, because a lot of this movie's fucking confusing. Like, they don't explain everyone's powers, how they're getting together, while they're why are they transporting Frankenstein in a World War II airplane? There's just all this weird shit. They're hiding out in a Civil War Confederate building in it. They don't explain that. They don't explain how the amulet got there. No, they don't explain anything. This movie, shit just fucking happened.
Is that the building where the monsters are? Which building?
Yeah.
Well, in Dracula, Dracula in the Bela Lugosi movie, he just finds any building really because he's coming from England.
Oh no, I get that.
So I feel like they just found any building.
It's really just about bringing the monsters together. So whatever explanation you have, it's
for example, in this one, the creature from the Black Lagoon or whatever, he just shows up. Hello.
There's
no it's just like hi. There's no how he got there.
I mean, this did a lot better job of bringing them together than the
Dark Universe.
Well, yeah. I mean, they didn't even get a chance to. Okay, Dark Universe. They didn't even get a chance to bring them together.
Yeah.
They didn't even know how to hint at the next movie.
Yeah.
Like instead of at the end, why don't you show us a hint that the next one's going to be the Wolfman or whatever. No, let's just have Tom Cruise starting to turn into some kind of monster that we can't explain, and let's just not get into that. I was going to say, the Universal movies had trouble getting them together, like House of Dracula. I mean, it's like a mess. They'd have to kill one monster off before the next monster comes in. They were, as classic as those movies are, and I love them, they were kind of a mess. But then the Monster Squad finally got them all together with the Mummy and with the creature from the Black Lagoon, and they really just...
Yeah, but they explain it So some things they over-explain, like Van Helsing's book that's in German, and they need the German guy to do it, and all that. So they over-explain on some stuff, but then other stuff they're like, oh, the mummy just came out. Was it it was Dracula's power, I guess?
Yeah.
And he's getting everyone together, but...
2,000-year-old dead guys do not get up and walk away by themselves.
Yeah, I don't mean to harp on it that much, but I was watching and I was like, wait, when did that happen?
Yeah.
At the same time, this is for kids, so not to make any.
I guess it's for kids, but
well, I always thought of it as a kids movie because you got this sort of group of kids. I think it's for kids.
I think
It's
it's
definitely
more,
for kids.
yeah.
Or teenagers, I guess.
Yeah, but the language and stuff. It's. I think it's.
It was the '80s though. The shit was different.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean-
I think they were kind of confused on who their target audience was because this movie, the promotion was terrible. Everything, they didn't know how to market it. Like I said, how the hell did I not hear about it until the 2000s?
Yeah, because how many kids movies where a fucking werewolf explodes and gets shot and wants to die and he's like, kill me. That's not good.
The effects are great on the monsters.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you see them all in the swamp, when they're first all together, it's like wow, do they look great?
Yeah.
And the Gill Man, who's played by Tom Woodruff Jr.
I don't think I've ever seen it look better than in Monster Squad. That is how it should look.
Yeah, I mean, they all
and how it
look
breathes. It's probably the Gill Man or whatever is probably the scariest of all of them. And the Wolfman, they look really fucking frightening. But then you have Frankenstein, who's
I don't know what they did with Frankenstein. They had the rights to to do like a universal like, and he's so weird looking compared. What do you think about the look of the monster and Monster Squad? I thought he was a little.
The trouble is he's not like built and like 9 foot tall. He's just like a really thin guy. Like something's wrong with him.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, I never really thought about it.
Even
much. I mean,
you know what's weird? Even Karloff in the original Frankenstein is a little like thin and like.
Oh, he's got like
dead.
a skull-like type face, like he has like that those sunken cheeks, you know.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was Jack Pierce, the makeup artist. He would, try to like do all these kind of like tricks that were very unique. Nobody else did them.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking of Frankenberry.
Oh, yeah.
I like when they're at the swamp and Dracula uses his cane because I guess he understands science, and he puts like things that look like earbuds, like modern day earbuds, on it in his ears and shocks them.
Actually, you're not
he
even
does
totally.
that in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Oh, it's the
too.
same
like
thing?
where he zaps the
Oh
electrodes to
yeah,
wake
he
him
hits the
up.
electric, but these look like earbuds. I thought that was kind of funny.
Actually, I actually don't think that's a bad comment. Like the Frankenberry, like I think the Frankenstein in Monster Squad actually is more like a Frankenberry than like Frankenstein. He's so he's like, he's kind of like durr.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He's like the effeminate, nice Frankenstein.
I mean, I have to look at it again. Maybe it's a like a hybrid between Mary Shelley and like Jack Pierce. Like it might be more like kind of like
It's weird, it's a little weird, but where the rest of them are like really spot on. Like the Wolfman's really spot on. Mummy, Dracula, they're all pretty spot on. That's the only one where I'm like, it's a little weird.
The Monster Squad is a group of kids that like monster stuff, and they're a group of misfit kids. Like one's like the fat kid. They keep calling the fat kid, which is kind of rude. No. And then you have like the kids that are like they're kind of jerks because they're like with the principal in the beginning and like they're like bad kind of kids. You have his sister. You have the punk kid who keeps looking at the girl through the window. The guy, the kid on the bike who smokes and has a leather jacket and wouldn't be allowed in the BK Kids Club. He's too extreme for that.
But they always had that one, like the fat kid, like Goonies had Chunk, and they always have the main kid. I don't remember what the main kid's name in the movie, but he's almost like the Mikey from Goonies. They always have they have like the specific
they really have the tropes down.
The tropes,
but they're all kind of terrible. I don't know.
The kids are not really memorable. Where you watch Goonies,
they don't seem like
and
friends.
you remember specifically Mouth and each
all the kids.
character.
In this they don't seem like friends. They just seem like they all just kind of go up into that thing that eventually the treehouse. The treehouse is awesome.
It's another treehouse. We mentioned treehouses a lot this month. It's a good
treehouse of horror.
Yeah, I mean it's a good treehouse. I mean, I love movies that have treehouses. Not as epic as the Ernest Scared Stupid treehouse, which is like a fortress. But I like how the young girl has to like kind of work her way in. Like at first they're being really mean to her. They're like, oh, we don't want a girl, like kids would do. And then she brings them, because they have a monster club, she brings them the real Frankenstein. And then they're like, oh my gosh, you got a real monster. And then she's cool with them.
And there's like a montage of hanging out with Frankenstein and like this great song that plays.
And it turns
trick or treating with them.
It turns out that she's actually the most important one of all, because without her they'd all be screwed.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, the kids were mean to her.
Because the whole thing is Dracula needs to get this amulet that can open up a portal to suck him in or whatever, which you see Van Helsing try in the beginning. And it says, and it's great, the narration's like, they blew it. Like right on the screen, like they fucked up.
Can we talk about that portal for a second?
Okay.
So like, what is the deal with the portal? So they're opening up as to kill them as a time vortex. So in the beginning of the movie, they Van Helsing and all them, they all get sucked into it. But like, what are they trying to do? Where does that vortex go?
The goal
is it a time traveling thing? Like, what is
it's not time travel. I guess it's just like it's kind of like the. What's it called in Superman? Like the Phantom Zone.
Yeah.
Your goal is because like when Van Helsing comes in at the end to fist fight Dracula, they are then sucked back into the thing. So I'm not really sure.
You know what I'd like it to be? If I had my way, what I'd like it to be is it sends them into the future. So all it's doing is postponing what's going to happen. So now, like let's say it sends them into the year like 2020 or later. Let's make it like 2023 or something. Just give them a few years to make this movie, and then the monsters all just appear again, and now it's Monster Squad 2, and that's how it happens.
That's how you do the show.
It's like, oh, well, we got to send them into the Like in the Superman comics, they send Doomsday into the future, and all it does, they just send him to the end of time.
Yeah, that's someone else's problem.
Yeah.
How many years is it in the movie, though? Like, is it 100 years or something
It's
like
exactly 100 years.
Exactly 100 years. So you'd have to set the movie in the future if you wanted to do it.
From the portal. Yeah, but I guess their goal is to suck the bad guys into the portal, but they need a virgin woman, I guess, which they don't really explain very well, to read German to do it. But then
It's just part of this chant,
But then they have the 5-year-old do it, and I think it's weird to think of a 5-year-old as a virgin in general.
There's a lot of weird things in this movie.
Because of course she is. She should be a virgin.
And everyone's like, oh yeah. It's like,
But it makes you think those thoughts. It's
Yeah, it's
like,
like,
I mean, like it could have been like worse. Like this movie could have, like there's so many dirty jokes they could have done, and they go
and
there.
Speaking of that, though, isn't there the older girl?
Yeah.
And then they find out she's not a virgin.
Yeah, and still she's pretty young
she's
too.
Like, she's
It's
like half.
So now you're finding out that girl's like not a virgin, and that makes you uncomfortable too.
Yeah, it's
the
like,
whole thing's
wow,
really uncomfortable.
Yeah, it really is.
It doesn't
And
count.
you know what else is uncomfortable?
yeah.
Dracula screaming in their little girl's face.
Yeah, because they're a bitch.
You know what's more disturbing to me than him calling her a bitch? The way he grabs her by the jaw and like lifts her off the
Yeah,
ground.
that's frightening,
That's disturbing.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about like
This movie's fucked up.
So it really is. There's a couple scenes like, so the parents are like kind of almost gonna, the dad is a cop, and he might get a divorce from the mom or whatever. And at the end, you see when he runs home to like find out what's going on, the luggage is at the door. Like clearly she was about to leave him. And they don't talk about it, but it's there. And I was like, oh, that's really subtle. The movie can be subtle and good sometimes. Another example of that is when they show the scary guy in the house, where it's like the weeds are growing and they think he's like a scary
old German
vampire.
dude, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a German guy, and you notice there's like a menorah in the window, so clearly he's Jewish or whatever. And then you're like, okay, that's enough. He's a Jewish guy, he's old, whatever. And then they have a scene where they're leaving the house, and they're like, oh, watch out for monsters. He's like, oh, I know about monsters, and closes the door.
You sure know a lot about monsters.
Now that you mention it, I suppose I do.
And then they show his Auschwitz number, because he was in the Holocaust. And
I didn't even remember that.
I'm like, that wasn't for the kids, that was for the parents. And why would you do that?
Well,
that's so weird that you'd have like this silly like fun monster movie, but then you'd include something about like one of the.
You want to know the real monsters?
Yeah, like one of the
shit.
It's like a lot of
periods in
movies.
world
It's
history.
for kids and adults. There's things there for the kids to enjoy, and there's things there for the adults to enjoy, and I shouldn't say to enjoy, but to like recognize. And but really no, to enjoy though for fans of old horror who maybe grew up with the Universal monsters and and want to see another Dracula, Frankenstein movie in that style. So I think they were kind of trying to make it something for everybody.
Yeah, they have them in there,
trying to, but not necessarily.
But then it's kind of all mixed. It's like a too mixed, but they were trying to branch out too much. Maybe I don't know.
Well, sometimes it hits you over the head with it. Sometimes they don't explain enough.
Yeah.
That tonally the movie's all over the place. It was fun to watch, but it was just all over the place.
I didn't expect to go into so many flaws with this because I'm just like, oh yeah, it's Monster Squad, it's a classic. But yeah, there's a lot wrong with this movie. But mostly, I really love Monster Squad. I mean, it's definitely not perfect, but this is really like, the last good Monster Mash they ever did.
Except for like Hotel Transylvania is pretty good.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was just talking like live action stuff.
Yeah.
Going animated, Hotel Transylvania, those movies are great. So yeah, there's a lot more, but I was just talking like live action.
I'd like to say when I saw this movie as a kid, I loved it. I had never seen anything like it, and I thought the movie was great. I mean, some of the stuff I remember watching as a kid. A little bit of the movie bored me. Like there's a part where they're like walking down the street and they're all like holding hands with Frankenstein, and I'm like, this is
I thought that was funny.
I don't know. I never liked that. But some of the shit in the movie, like as a kid, I thought was like amazing. I loved the scene where, I guess spoiler alert a little bit, where I think they shoot an arrow at the mummy or something, and then the mummy unravels, and then you find out that inside the mummy, at least this version of the mummy, there's nothing inside of it. So it's almost like was the mummy a ghost inside?
No, it was dust. It was falling out.
Oh, was it dust?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I had, since I said I had not seen this movie until into my young adulthood, I had heard about things that I didn't know were in this movie until I saw it, like the mummy part where when they unravel them. I think I had a friend, like way back, probably shortly after this came out, I had a friend in my neighborhood who was like, like, oh yeah, you know how to kill a mummy. You just unravel them and then it like.
Because the body inside had turned to dust.
Yeah.
Sure.
So and I didn't know that's where it came from. And then I also heard something about Wolfman's Got Nards. I'm like,
oh, that's the big thing people remember about this movie.
Yeah, I mean, which is great.
Because everybody had seen this movie except for you.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, come on, there's no movie where they say Wolfman's got nards.
Take him in the nards! Take him in the nards! He doesn't have nards! Do it! Wolfman's got nards! Come on! Come on!
Like, it was perfect. The way it happened was like exactly how you wanted to hear it in your brain. It's like, it just cuts right to his face, and he's like, Wolfman's got nards.
What do you think about the garlic pizza part?
Oh, it hits him in the face.
That's another thing I heard about. I was like, oh, you want to keep vampires away? You use a pizza because pizza's got garlic on it. And then I see the movie. I'm like, oh, like, yep.
Yeah, but I will say the production design and everything's really good in this movie, all the stuff. And my favorite thing is the little kid's room. Remember when the mummy's hiding in his closet?
Yeah.
Somehow it got there, it doesn't make sense. And the dad's like, oh, look, there's nothing in there, and it's right there, whatever.
Yeah.
But the kid he's wearing a Robotech shirt, like the anime stuff. He has a Punisher, like comic thing on the wall. He has a My Pet monster sitting there. I'm like, this kid's fucking awesome.
There's a lot of Monster Madness movies James and I have done over the years where there's the kid in the movie and the kid's room is awesome. Like they'll have sheets. There was something from 80s-a-thon we did where, I don't know if you remember the movie, but there was something where this kid, everything was just like Star Wars and
which it wouldn't
He-Man
be
and
like,
all that stuff, like, you know, in that era. But I love those kind of details in movies. And, you know, as we had, you know, done Monster Madness stuff over the years, we always would take the frames of that and be like, oh, check out the little ET thing or check out this or that. So this is another one of those movies like that. And I love those moments.
And I love movies where ordinary kids are the heroes and they're fans of the monsters. So the monsters already, like, you know, exist in some kind of movie and where they apply their fan knowledge to save the day. Like, oh, I saw that in a movie once. Just like an example, they don't say it in this movie, but there's got to be a movie where they're like, oh, you use a silver bullet. Like, that's how you kill a werewolf. Like, I saw it in a movie.
Yeah.
So they see something in a movie and then they...
Is there something in this movie where, is there some sort of in-between between the kids are like, they're like us. They love the horror trivia and all that stuff and they're doing this. They're like, oh, you got to use a silver bullet and all that. Between that and, okay, now the Wolfman is standing over here and he's real. Is there any moment in the movie where they're like, wait a second, these things are from a movie, but now they're real? Like, because, you know, like there should be kind of like a scene where they're like realizing, oh, these things actually were real, and they turned it into books from stories that were actually true.
Well, that's what I think is so funny about...
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I think is so funny about when the girl brings Frankenstein into the treehouse or whatever, because before that, they're in the treehouse talking about like, so... is Frankenstein the name of the guy or the monster? You know, they're talking about all that stuff. And then when the girl brings Frankenstein, it's like, oh my God. It's like if we're sitting right here, like talking about like Dracula, and then all of a sudden somebody comes in with Dracula.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, Dracula would like to sit down and talk about Monster Squad with you. It's just infinitely funny.
The movie is not smart enough, I guess, to have a like these things did exist and then they went through history and now that's what you have.
But it's already funny without it. I think it's just funny the way
like,
it is.
If you did like a 10-part series, like a Stranger Things thing, you would start doing that.
Even if it was just like a line of dialogue, I wish there was something in there that would have like explained it, because James had just mentioned, we were talking about Gremlins, and I think there's a great thing in Gremlins too where they go into, I guess it's the scientists or something like that, when they explain like Gremlins sleeping after midnight. They do a little bit of extra work on the lore.
And they make fun of it, like, oh, well, what if they're doing this?
Even if they made fun of it, like something.
Yeah, I think the best example is in From Dusk Till Dawn, is because when they're all like talking about like, okay, so we just saw vampires, what do we do? And it's like, well, in the movie this happened. It's like, well, look, that was a movie. Like, this is like, and I don't want anybody giving me that I don't believe in vampires, because I don't believe in fucking vampires, but what I saw was fucking vampires. They make it funny.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And that had the fun with Tom Savini where they get his heart out and then they have to stab it outside the body. So they're answering questions that didn't have answers, much like blowing up the Wolfman. They answer things that, like, so that'd be funny for a new series otherwise, to take things that, hey, what about this and that? And then you actually try them, like the garlic pizza. Like, he didn't know that was going to really work. He just did it.
Definitely have to mention the TV show. Have you seen or heard at least of the Monster Squad TV show?
No.
Yeah, okay, so it was in the 70s. It's unrelated.
We've watched some.
I think Mike knows. So basically, it has ties with Batman 66, the 66 series.
Really?
So basically, it was like the follow-up to that. The writer, Stanley Ralph Ross, was involved in it. So he basically, he made the show where it's the monsters are the superheroes. So the monsters are the Monster Squad in this one. So you have all of them, and they're
Was
fighting.
it live action?
It was live action, and they're.
I remember cartoon monster shit from back then, but I don't remember live action.
There's a lot
There
of
was
that
a
kind
bunch
of
of
stuff, too.
cartoon stuff. There was like
Yeah.
Groovy Ghoulies.
That's
and,
what I'm thinking of.
Drac Pack.
Yeah, Drac Pack, yeah.
Yeah, but
there's one
this-
where they all hung out in a car. Was that the Drac Pack?
I think Drac Pack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this one, it was basically like, you know how every Batman episode is formatted? It's the exact same thing where there's a villain in each episode, and it's usually some weird, like campy, like over-the-top villain, and the monsters are the heroes, and they gotta fight the villain, and then it always ends with like this fight scene where they're all, you know, like pow, bam, and all that. I don't think it had the words on the screen,
Yeah.
but it's basically Batman, the show, but with classic monsters.
My
sounds cool.
favorite of that kind of thing
Yeah.
from that era is that hilarious House of Frankenstein.
Oh,
That's just
yeah.
the best.
That's great with Vincent Price.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like a variety
The
show. and
DJ
it's like-
Wolfman and shit.
Yeah, the DJ Wolfman, who's actually the Wolfman.
We're getting
you
way
know?
off. We're getting way off topic here.
Yeah. So anyway, I would love to see a reboot of Monster Squad. They were talking about it a few years ago, but it fizzled
Yeah.
out. Because it's like now that they're trying to like do something serious with the monsters. They don't know what to do with them. This is what you do with them.
Go back and have
them
fun.
Yeah, make them funny. Make them.
And now that Stranger Things worked out, just and it one in chapter 2 worked out. Just do that, but better.
There you
Yeah.
go.
You see-
Do a
you-
Netflix Monster Squad show.
Yeah.
Oh, hi guys, Tony here. I just wanted to let you guys know that if you wanted to watch a show where all the classic monsters get together and they fight and solve crimes and do wacky stuff together, you should watch my old show, Mummy Cop the Series. It's available on YouTube. I edited this entire review waiting for 3 of my friends to bring up that show, and none of them did. They must have all forgot. All 3 of them. Enjoy the show. It's a monster mash. It's a graveyard smash. Why did no one mention Mummy Cop?